Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. You've grown to love Matthew Elliott. He is, of course, one of the leaders of the Leave campaign 3 years ago. He now is the editor-at-large of BrexitCentral.com. No doubt consulting with more than a few Tories as they run up on this most important election in the United Kingdom's history since Maggie Thatcher swept to power. Good morning, Matthew. How are you?
Good morning, Hugh. Great to be on the show again.
Now, Matthew, I assume you're an English football fan, right?
A little bit, yes.
Do you know anything about American football?
Not as much as I should.
Okay, well, there's a club here called the Pittsburgh Steelers, which are uniquely hated by the rest of the country, and their fans are rather thick and slow and plodding, and they don't really. So what is the equivalent? Who are the dumbest soccer fans in England?
Oh, you put me on the spot now. Now, I'm going to dodge that question. If I say anything, somebody will pick it up.
Oh, I just
a whole load of Twitter abuse.
I know. I just really want one club that I can say this. We're going to slow down for the benefit of the X fans. I always say we're going to slow down for the Steelers fan. We're going to slow down this segment on Brexit for the X fans. Who are the X fans?
It would probably be Millwall.
Millwall? How do you spell that?
Millwall.
All right. I think Dwayne can figure that out. He's a sort of a Steelers fan. Okay, so we're going to slow this down for the Millwall fans. Matthew Elliott, Nigel Farage appears to be throwing a hand grenade at the Tories. What is going on?
Well, we have, 4 hours and 25 minutes until the close of nominations. And my Twitter feed is sadly full of Brexit Party candidates standing in opposition seats, submitting their nomination forms for the election. So we're all hoping that there'll be another push, that having stepped down in Conservative-held seats, Farage would also step down in the marginal seats, which the Tories need to regain from, in particular, the Labour Party, to get an overall majority. But a deal doesn't seem to have been done. It seems like, following the coverage and having spoken to a few people, it seems like Boris gave some ground. He basically said that in a number of seats, primarily in the northeast, which the Brexit Party is targeting, the Conservatives would only put up paper candidates. So there'd still be a Conservative candidate there, but they wouldn't campaign, wouldn't give out leaflets, wouldn't attend events. So really be a candidate in name only, giving the Brexit Party a clear run. But that wasn't enough for Nigel Farage. So it looks like the Brexit Party will be standing in all the opposition seats.
Now, this appears to me across the Atlantic to be a pure vanity play by Nigel Farage, because all this could do is hurt the opportunity for a pro-Brexit majority. Nigel Farage could get 10 to 30 seats if he played along with the Boris plan. I don't think he's going to get any seats now. And when he gets no seats, he'll be back to being a television comedian instead of a serious player in British politics. He's not standing himself. So my question is, will this cause the collapse of the Brexit Party? Will voters see through this and realize it's just all these candidates are a sock puppet for Nigel?
Well, we're seeing support drift away from the Brexit Party in the latest polling, especially since he announced that he'd be standing down in 317 seats. But the real change was when he said a fortnight ago that he wouldn't be standing himself in the election. Now, admittedly, he stood in, I think, 8 other elections previously and is yet to win a seat, of course. But he's been a very successful MEP. The Brexit Party is the largest UK party, indeed the largest party in the European Parliament. So he's been a very successful politician. And you could say he's been the most successful politician since probably Margaret Thatcher, even perhaps more successful than Tony Blair in terms of changing the climate of opinion in the UK. But as you say, he risks throwing away that reputation, because if Boris Johnson fails to get a majority, if it's another hung parliament, if there's then, for example, a second referendum and then Brexit is put at risk or even lost, then all the blame will lie on Nigel Farage's shoulders.
Now, Matthew Elliott, most Americans know Nigel Farage not through the pages of the Telegraph and the Times of London, but through the special Brexit that you and I have talked about before, in which you were portrayed by a very famous actor, in which Benedict Cumberbatch played Dominic.
Dominic Cummings, yeah.
Yeah, and so we take a look at the Nigel Farage that's in the American consciousness, and it's kind of a goofball portrayal, right? That was not a flattering portrayal in that movie. Does he want to nail that down? Is he aware of what he's doing? I've talked to his friends here in the States. They are aghast at what he's doing.
I'm pausing. It's a really difficult question to answer. I really think that he understands that the election could be thrown if he doesn't stand down candidates in other seats. I know a little bit about the internal manoeuvrings within the Brexit Party, and it seems like there are some other players in that who are stopping him from stepping down candidates. So I'm not sure. No doubt the inside story will be written in the next few days. But I just hope that in these next 4 hours, there's still time for him to stand down candidates. And even after the nominations have gone in, there's still time for him to say very publicly to people that he hopes they will support the Conservative candidate, where the Conservative candidate has the best chance of winning in the seat. And that will send out a very strong signal. He still has a significant media pulpit in the UK. If he said that in the run-up to the election in the next 29 days, that would have an impact as well. So we shouldn't give up. Even if the Brexit Party candidates do stand, there's still another 29 days for him to make it clear that Brexit voters, people who want to see Britain leave the EU, should be voting Conservative in those crucial seats.
You know, Matthew, I'm one of the handful of American journalists who follow this election closely, and the rest of them think like I do because we are all basically Tory supporting Nigel Farage sympathizers in the last couple of elections, but he is doing himself irreparable damage if he doesn't stand down today. And I don't think what you're saying will help much because you get very few windows to influence American public opinion on things in the United Kingdom. Boris Johnson has always taken advantage of those windows. Nigel Farage used to take advantage of those windows. That window is shutting today in about 4 hours. Because you come back and tell me later someone stood down in this constituency because Nigel asked him to. That just is, boy, that's not signal. That's just noise.
It's very true. You know, he has 4 hours to make this big difference. And I hope he makes that change. If he doesn't, there's still a chance that Boris can get that majority. You know, the polling is looking good for him. The poll out yesterday that gave him a 10-point lead, one the day before that gave him a 14-point lead. All of these could add up to him getting that majority. The campaign is going well for him. You know, Jeremy Corbyn is still making quite a few gaffes, but it's still a but situation. There will still be those marginal seats that Boris needs to get.
No, it's like the Libertarian candidate cost Matt Bevin the governorship of Kentucky with 5,000 votes. And that could happen in some of these marginal constituencies, and it will all be on Nigel Farage's head. Let me turn to Jeremy Corbyn, because the other competing headline from The Telegraph, the UK, The Guardian, the Financial Times yesterday, is Jeremy Corbyn's very, very bad day. He was heckled a couple of times as a terrorist-loving, anti-Semitic leader of Labour. People are leaving Labour left and right. It's like the Titanic going down. How much worse can it get? Is it the worst Labour campaign start in your memory, Matthew Elliott?
Well, it's been pretty bad and all over the place. It's very difficult to, like you said before, to separate the signal from the noise. Over the past few years, this whole idea that Jeremy Corbyn is anti-Semitic, that has built up and up and up, because that's the truth in there. He's failed to deal with anti-Semitism within the Labour Party. The trouble is, the people who don't want to vote for him for that reason are already voting Conservative or Liberal Democrat or for another party. I'm hoping that over the next few weeks, people start seeing how he's also basically a Marxist when it comes to the economy. People will see how he wouldn't put Britain's security first. He was even saying, unbelievably, 2 days ago, that in the event of a nuclear strike in the north of England, he would then convene a cabinet meeting to decide whether to retaliate against the other side. Jeez. So he's a guy who's really, really weak on security. He would be a terrible, terrible prime minister. We would see a flight of capital from the UK. We'd see the collapse in the economy very quickly. Would be a joke of the country. So I hope the country really wakes up to that.
Now, I also saw a clip of a heckler up in Scotland, and the heckler had this magnificent booming voice. Now, he could be a nutter. I have no idea who the heckler is. It's a completely, it is, I don't know which cut it is. Which cut is it, Dwayne? This heckler is wonderful. Cut number 34, Ben.
I explained the origins.
I thought you'd be wearing your Islamic jihad scarf.
Well, no.
You're not invited to the funeral. Do you think the man that's going to be Prime Minister of this country should be a terrorist sympathiser, Mr. Corbyn?
Okay, stop. I don't know. This guy could be a nutter, right? But are you wearing your Islamic Jihad scarf, Jeremy Corbyn? He didn't have an answer.
That will resonate with people, and people will remember that, and people will remember the fact that Jeremy Corbyn he invited the IRA into Parliament very soon after the Brighton bomb. He's invited Islamic extremist terrorists into Parliament as well. He's got a really, really bad track record on these things, and the idea he could be our Prime Minister, lead on foreign policy, our lead on security policy is just a complete joke.
Okay, let put on your consultant hat for a second. I want to replay this clip, and I want you to give Jeremy Corbyn advice about what to do when he runs into this guy again. Cut number 34, Jeremy Corbyn in Glasgow yesterday.
I explained the origins of it.
I thought you'd be wearing your Islamic Jihad scarf.
Well,
You're not invited to the funeral. Do you think the man that's going to be Prime Minister of this country should be a terrorist sympathiser, Mr. Corbyn?
So, Matthew Elliott, what's your advice to Jeremy Corbyn when he runs into this guy again?
My advice is to do basically what he did in the last campaign. In the last campaign, he smartened up. He put on very, very smart dark blue suits, nice white shirts, nice red ties, looked like a politician. So he confounded people's expectations. He seems to have slipped back into his old method of dressing. So part suit, part charity scarf like he was wearing, part looking like he's down at his allotment doing the gardening. And this isn't a good look for a future Prime Minister.
Meanwhile, Boris Johnson continues to flood. I try and retweet them because they're all great. He's flooding social media. Is it working?
It is. So he did a very, very good party political broadcast. You don't have these in the States. I know you're allowed to have adverts on TV. You can pay to have adverts on TV. That's not allowed in the UK, but the parties are given slots to air their adverts on the main terrestrial TV channels. And also, of course, they're pushed out through Facebook and Twitter and the like. And the latest one this week basically had Boris answering 20 or 25 questions as he walks around the campaign quarters and makes himself a cup of tea. And it looks very, very natural. This is Boris at his best. Boris looking human, personable, and this is the Boris I know from the Vote Leave campaign, the Boris I've come to know. He is very down to earth. He's very approachable. He has a good sense of humour, a quick wit, and it's good that he can be shown in this context of people.
Boris at his best. That's what we love to hear. Matthew Elliott, we'll talk to you again next week. Follow him on Twitter, Matthew_Elliott, 2 L's, 2 T's, and at Brexit Central. Thank you, Matthew.